How's it going, everybody? This is Fargast here, coming in post-production, having just finished editing the Joe Zieja interview. In this interview, we talk about Fire Emblem, his streaming, his hobbies and his pastimes, and what his plans are for the future for self-improvement. So it's a really, really interesting interview we have going that I'm really, really excited to show you guys. If you are new to the channel, I make Fire Emblem videos based on Let's Plays, scripted content about maps and characters, and special videos just like this one. So if you are interested in the channel and you want to see more, be sure to leave a like and comment down below, and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more content just like this. All right, guys, have fun watching the interview. Deuces. How's it going, everyone? My name is Gast, and welcome to a special video today. Today, I'm sitting down with Joe Zieja, the voice of Claude, and we're gonna just talk about Three Houses, voice acting, all that kind of good stuff. Man needs no introduction.
That's high praise.
Big personality in the community. How's it going, Joe?
Great, man. Thanks for having me on.
So yeah, you actually recently just kind of announced your role as Bumblebee in the Transformers Netflix special. But like in that announcement video, you talked about how like you grew up watching Transformers, and like I actually grew up like watching Beasties, and like.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that shit. I swear a lot, so don't worry about swearing.
That's okay. I'm Italian from New Jersey. Most of my language is profanity.
And you mentioned like I said, like buying the toys and like watching the shows and whatnot. How does it feel like being part of something like you grew up watching as a kid? Is that like kind of the first time that happened doing voiceover work, or is it kind of a common thing that you've done so far?
You know, it's definitely not the first time it's happened. I mean, like I grew up playing Star Fox.
Oh yeah,
and
of course.
Suddenly wound up as Fox McCloud, which is it's a pretty surreal experience.
Yeah.
A couple of times, actually, it's happened a lot with one particular studio. I will be in the middle of playing a game, and this studio will call me and be like, "Hey, you've booked this game," and I'm like, "But I'm playing it," you know, like
yeah.
They're like, you know, I'm playing the one previous. Are you sure? It's happened, I think, 3 times with one studio.
Yeah.
So yeah, it happens a lot, and yeah, Bumblebee is probably the furthest reaching back.
Yeah.
You know, to when I was like a little kid watching like the original Transformers series and the horror show, the beautiful horror show that was the original Transformers movie and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome experience.
Did you ever? This is kind of like an offshoot, but did you ever watch like the classic like X-Men cartoon?
You know what? My wife and I were watching it the other day, just when I think it came out on Disney Plus, right? Like they re-released it on Disney Plus, and we watched an episode, and we were like, "Oh my God, this was a real thing in the '90s." Like, people watched this and enjoyed it. I didn't watch it when I was a kid, so like the nostalgia didn't bite for me.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, man, I love all like the nostalgia stuff coming back. It makes me feel great.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make you feel good.
Yeah. Kind of also recently, like you released those cosplay pictures, which looked like unreal. The timeskip Claude. Could we get like a full story behind this, like where the idea came from, and what was the experience like cosplaying, and also like was it your first time cosplaying?
So it is my first time cosplaying. I am not a cosplayer. I expect it may be my last time cosplaying. I don't really know. This really was the impetus came entirely from the fan base.
Yeah.
Who were asking about it originally, and then I was like, okay, you know, like my Twitter kind of exploded, and I was like, oh, if we get to, I think it was 50,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah, I believe so.
I'll go ahead and buy a costume, and so like that happened real fast. And then I think I commissioned the costume in like November from Somerset Sews, and she was amazing. I also got like as kind of like a stretch goal from my Twitch stream. We were looking at, can we get a bow? And I can't remember where I found the bow to begin with. I'm not sure if the person from Habiteer Workshop who made it reached out to me, or if actually I think Somerset Sews might have said, hey, check this out. And it just looked phenomenal.
It's
I basically had like
it looks so
yeah,
good.
It's amazing. It's just so gigantic. Yeah, we just kind of went from there. I had a subscriber goal on my Twitch stream to like raise the funds because it was expensive to 3D print and then paint and then paint and then paint and then sand and then paint. Like it's a lot of work.
Was it heavy? It looks really heavy from the pictures.
It's pretty heavy. I'd say it's a solid 10, 15 pounds maybe. Damn. If I had to take a guess. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. And then we, you know, booked the shoot. It took a while to lock things down. Originally, we were going to shoot inside like a monastery looking like church in Pasadena, but they wanted a lot of money, and the cosplay shoot was expensive as it was already. So we kind of went with something simpler in the studio, and the photographer Maureen Price did a great job with the background and modifying it and making it look like it was in the inside of a monastery. So yeah, I just put on a costume, to be honest. Like all the rock stars have nothing to do with me.
Yeah, well, it looked fantastic, and it was really cool.
I'm glad you think so. Yeah.
And
everyone seemed to appreciate it. I don't fully I understand cosplay, but I don't really I don't understand cosplay. Yeah. I think the people that do it are phenomenal. The effort they put in their costumes are incredible. But no, I'm not really much of a cosplayer.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is actually last summer I cosplayed as like my favorite Fire Emblem character, who's from Sacred Stones. His name is Garrick, and
cool.
And the weird thing is like I've never like posed before, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but like posing was like kind of like weird, and it made me appreciate like the people who were like super hardcore into it and like they pull it off so naturally.
I mean, I've done headshots and stuff like that, and I've taken some parkour photographs.
Oh,
So I had a little bit of experience, but not nearly enough.
Yeah, but I think the gesture of just like you like really being super engaged with the community, and like I will say like kind of like the face of like voice actors within Fire Emblem, like communicating with the community. Yeah. I think that gesture alone was like that's something that went super appreciated by like everybody.
Well,
and
I'm
it
glad.
was really cool. Yeah.
I'm glad it impacted people in a positive way.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk about your streaming. So
shoot.
How's the streaming going? I mean, you're going Tuesday to Thursday and Sunday. So really busy stuff.
It kind of like, took on a life of its own. Again, the impetus came from the community. They wanted me to stream the game. I had experimented a little bit with streaming prior to Fire Emblem, and I thought like, it'd be kind of a fun niche for a voice actor to stream games that they act in.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like something nobody's doing, so I'll do that. So I streamed Just Cause 4 and I streamed Ace Combat 7. And we had a really good time. I enjoyed it. There was no consistency to that schedule. There was no production value at all. It was like me and a crummy camera just playing the game.
Yeah.
And then when I kind of found out that people would appreciate a Fire Emblem stream, I was like, okay, we'll do it. And so I'll set up a schedule. We'll play through the whole game. And I talked to my wife about it because it's chunks of time out of the day. And we're like, okay, we're going to do Tuesday and Thursday. We'll play 2 hours a day. And so hopefully it won't take us 9 years to get through Fire Emblem. And the response was like overwhelming. I think the first time I streamed, I had over 10,000 unique viewers.
That's unreal.
And like 2,500 concurrent average.
That's mad.
Now that went down over time fairly dramatically, as I kind of expected it to. And honestly, like I expected it to plummet and it just sort of be like a thing that I did for a little bit and then pulled back. But the community has stayed fairly strong. I have sometimes 500 to 700 people hanging out watching me play different games. And then another game that I'm in called Shadowverse, the company reached out and were like, hey, we'd really like you to play our game. Would you consider a sponsored stream? And I was like, I've never done that before. I guess I'm a streamer now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's cool. And then when I went to TwitchCon, I met a bunch of other like the top streamers like Baru and Admiral Baru and Moon. And I didn't meet Moon. And I met Arcadum. And suddenly they wanted to do a D&D group. And actually, I thought that they were just saying like, hey, do you want to hang out on Sunday nights and play D&D? And then like the day of, they're like, yeah, we're streaming this. I was like, oh, okay, that's new. So I didn't really, I didn't really know about it until pretty recently that it was going to be streamed. And so, yeah, now I'm streaming like 9 hours a week, which is, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really know what the future holds. It's kind of always for me dictated by the community. If the community shows up and wants to see me play games, I'll keep playing games. If the interest dwindles, then if there's one thing I learned in my life, it's just to always go with the flow. Just like voice acting and like streaming, it was like I had a little tiny seed and saw it sprouting, so I put Pegasus blessings on it. And
there you go.
See where it went.
Got some speed carrots out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that was actually gonna come into my kind of follow-up for that. Like, you're doing a lot of voiceover work, and like you have a lot of hobbies, like you play music, parkour, everything, and now you're streaming like 9 hours a day. Is it hard to manage doing all that, or is it just like you said, kind of go with the flow and just kind of maybe take things in stride? Or
I've been fortunate that like when things ebb, other things flow for me, which has been nice. Although there have been a couple of times over the last, like, say, year and a half where I've had to really think about what I'm engaging in and start to peel back. I used to write books. I mean, I have a published trilogy with Simon & Schuster. I basically took writing off of my plate for a number of different reasons and said I wasn't going to commit time to marketing those books, which is a considerable amount of time and a considerable amount of stress.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take time to write new novels at the moment. I'm going to focus on doing what I came out here to Los Angeles to do, which was book big roles in big story, narrative-driven games, and focus on building that craft. And then really kind of engaging with the audience that I build, which keeps me creative and it keeps me doing fun things and interacting with people, meeting people, hearing their stories. So it's a real broadening experience. So yeah, I do find it frustrating and tough sometimes to balance the number of hobbies I have, especially with, being a family man as well. They need that time too.
Of course.
And they deserve it. They deserve my time more than parkour and music and, video games do.
For sure.
So that balance is probably the biggest challenge in my life, is keeping that all under wraps and not letting my ambition get out of control, because it does tend to do that.
Yeah. Stretching yourself thin, and before you know it, it's like, oh, I'm doing so much stuff, but I can't actually focus on one particular.
Exactly.
For the stream specifically, so I actually only recently started watching your streams, and something that I absolutely loved about it was not only like the Dear Abby stuff that you do, which is super unique and cool, but also like your funny impressions and accents. I think it's Reginald who does the tea time.
Reginald is the tea time voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and it's like, honestly, it's one of the most like entertaining like Three Houses streams. I only watch Three Houses con. It actually is like super, super funny. So like, were impressions like always something that you were into, and like has your like career in voiceover like helped like enhance your ability to like engage and like keep your audience like with you and like kind of laughing along with you?
So you hit on a really good point, which is sort of like a behind the scenes calculation for all of this stuff, whether it be the YouTube stuff that I put out, like little weird sketches, or like, or the Twitch stream, right? When I was sort of crafting ideas for how to like get engaged with the community, build an audience, all that kind of thing, one of the things that was really important to me when I talk about building and creating content or engaging with an audience, it had to include something that helped me practice my craft. Right?
Okay.
There is you can only like act in a small room by yourself with no motivation for so long, right?
Yeah.
If you're not booking a bunch of roles, or you're not working on a bunch of projects, then you're really not acting. You may be auditioning in little snippets, but like you're not practicing your improvisational skills, you're not practicing any like finding different voices. So the stream and the YouTube stuff that I do is really just kind of a veiled way in some respects to practice. So that is extremely intentional. And coming up with each of the halftime shows, because Dear Abby is the halftime show for Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
For every game I have a different halftime show. That really is just an improv game, right? It's an audience.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's an audience prompted improv game where they get to participate, and I think that's fun.
It is super
They think
fun.
It's fun because they're participating.
Yeah.
And I just get to riff on stuff that like I have no control over. And that like I feel like that's some of the best improv training I've done so far is the halftime streams.
Yeah.
Coming up with different voices for stuff and like keeping that consistent. It's fun, but it's also great practice. Every time I'm on stream, I'm not just hanging out and playing video games and interacting with the community. I'm very determinedly focusing on my craft and getting better and building voices and learning how to use them in different situations. So there's definitely a method to the madness.
Nice. Do you have a particular favorite like personality, like, or like I guess voice that you have?
Like Boris, the sauna guy. he's kind of become everybody's favorite. Like people get really excited when it's time to hit the sauna in Fire Emblem, and that's a fun voice. I think he might be my favorite. He might be my favorite.
All right. I'm assuming like the Dear Abby questions are like people who are like submitting very like deer themed questions, and then you just kind of bounce back with that.
The idea originally, I actually don't know where the idea came from, but it was just like the idea is I want you to ask real life advice questions. That was the initial pitch. Was like ask real questions. Like I'm having trouble with my boyfriend, and then I'm going to answer them in a stupid, absurd way. You know? And then people just sort of took that and they put the deer spin on it.
Oh,
that
nice.
wasn't me. That was the audience. And now most of the questions have to do with like, hey, I'm a deer. How do I drive with hooves? Those kind of questions. But there's still quite a lot of questions that come in for like serious life advice. And sometimes like I'll find myself answering them seriously.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's very silly.
It's super fun. So yeah, good job. Really, it
Thanks.
is like as far as like any other, even like my own, I look at it and I'm like, wow, Joe is crushing this right now.
It's fun. It's just if it's not fun, why do it?
Yeah. So and continuing on with like Three Houses specifically, I'm kind of harkening back to an old interview you did with Nintendo Life, and you've actually played Fire Emblem before. You've played Awakening,
Right.
And when you were explaining your playstyle being quite brute force. Three Houses is kind of has, in my opinion, a different play style. So have you found that like your play style has changed at all regarding like Awakening versus Three Houses?
So when I set up the stream for Fire Emblem, one of the things I wanted to do was avoid save scumming, and I wanted to avoid a whole lot of like using divine pulses and making sure that everything was perfect. So I play on normal casual, right? There's no permadeath. And it's not that difficult. I find my characters to be relatively over-leveled because we're doing all the side quests. It's like we're doing all the content we can suck up on the Golden Deer route.
Yeah.
And so I find that most of the time battles are mostly a joke. If I lose somebody, if I lose somebody in a battle, it's like it's noticeable because it never happens ever. Maybe like once every 4 battles, one of my characters will become wounded and leave. But for the most part, it's a mess. It continues to be brute force because no one can touch anybody in the party.
Yeah. When you're like a level 45, I don't know.
Most of them are in the high 30s, low.
Yeah.
And we're on chapter 18 or 17.
Yeah.
So
it's still though nice to have kind of like a smooth ride because it's like you can I find when I'm streaming and I'm like doing a Ashen Wolves only playthrough and I'm on like a really difficult paralog. Sometimes I just like won't say anything for like I don't know 30 minutes and I'm just like super zoned into it, and I can't imagine that's like super entertaining to watch. But yeah,
that's kind of what I wanted to avoid. Like I didn't I don't want to stream games like Neo or like Dark Souls because I don't want people to see me screaming at a television for an hour and a half as I lose the same boss battle upwards of 20 times. Like when I'm picking games, it's got to be fun for me to play, and it has to have the opportunity for good entertainment value.
Who is your favorite timeskip Golden Deer glow up so far?
Oh geez,
You can say Claude. It is cool.
Well, I mean, like there's that.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think the best glow up, it's a toss up for me between like Petra and Hilda.
Okay.
Like I think probably now that I'm thinking about it, I have to go with Petra. Like, how do you go from like a school student to a freaking like Amazon warrior princess?
Yeah.
That's an awesome look change, and it's great.
Yeah, it was when I first saw it, I was like, this is unreal. It's like such a unique design as well. Like it's just so significantly different. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like there's no hint of it prior other than her little like purple tattoo.
Yeah.
But everyone else kind of like, you're like, all right, this makes sense. This makes sense. Petra, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but it's such a dramatic difference. So I think I'm gonna go with Petra.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some that were definitely like, oh, okay, sweet, I guess. Like Raphael, like no offense.
Yeah.
But he was just
he's got a bigger chest.
Yeah, now he's just more huge with more hair.
Yeah.
Cindered Shadows came out, I want to say like basically 2 weeks ago. As far as voice acting for when you got back into the booth, could you give me like a timeline on like when that actually happened, or was it like a really long time ago or like a couple months ago or?
I would say it was at least 6 months prior to it being released.
Okay.
If I had to take a guess, yeah.
Cool. And it was kind of like the same thing, right? You just kind of like hopped back into the booth and you just like did the lines and.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was fun to come back and be Claude again for a little while.
Yeah. Was it any different? Like, because before there was like when you did the lines and maybe you weren't super familiar with like what Three Houses would end up becoming, and then coming back to it knowing that like like a shitload of people are gonna like love this shit. Was it any different going back into the booth and like kind of having that expectation?
I don't know if there was so much an expectation of like the audience reception, but I definitely had a different set of ideas of like how life in Garrick Mach actually was, especially after having played the game.
Yeah, because now you're like super versed,
especially with such detail.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt a lot more. Not that I was ever uncomfortable as Claude, but I felt like, you went from like just being comfortable in your own skin to like this is a well-used lounge chair kind of comfort. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna get into actually talking about R. Wilson Rogers, the main character of the trilogy, and it actually kind of brings me back to maybe some advice that you could give to aspiring voice actors that could be watching. You mentioned you grew up in Jersey, and you mentioned that like your dry wit and your sarcasm, like from your past, helped with your performance of Claude. Kind of like you said, it's like
sure.
You're comfortable in your own in that skin, and Rogers as well. In like the trilogy, also behaves in like a sly and devious manner. So like I guess it was kind of cool that like Rogers and Claude kind of behave a little bit similar. I mean, Rogers is a little bit more kind of like rugged, I would say.
Rogers' schemes never work. That's the thing with him. It's just never working out for him.
Yeah. And so my question about like voice actors, or for any voice actors that are watching, do you have any advice for people who are trying or like struggling to get comfortable in their own skin, or like finding their voice, or what they would be able to consider like a good casting? Is there anything you can kind of like tell them?
And this doesn't just have to do with voice acting, it has to do with any skill you're going to cultivate. You have to do it a lot, and you have to do it a lot mindfully. The whole saying about practice makes perfect, practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect, right? I don't know that if I thought that up, I probably didn't. It's probably on a billboard at Home Goods.
Perfect practice makes perfect. I heard that before, but
perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah, but the first one I haven't heard of.
Yeah, practice makes permanent. Whatever you do, if you practice something poorly, you're going to become really amazing at sucking at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not just enough to like iterate and do a process over and over again. You have to innovate in the middle of that. You have to be mindful and watching yourself, what you're doing. And like after a while, it just becomes not as threatening to put on a different character and make funny sounds to other people. So yeah, it's just kind of like you have to do it a whole lot. I've auditioned tens and tens of thousands of times, and I'm not exaggerating. I keep track. So it's like you have to just get used to doing it. When I was writing, I kept track of all the rejection letters I received. I think I broke 100 at one point.
Wow.
Just like, because I just would send stuff out and get feedback. And then like, while I was waiting for an answer on Project X, I was working on Project Y. So that as soon as Project X came back, I could be like, well, what about this one? It was, and so just do it a lot. There's the real advice. Do it a lot.
Yep. 10,000 hours to get good at something? I think that's what they say.
Yeah, they say that. They say that. So, okay, we'll break into that tangent for a sec, because I know I've talked about this before, right?
Oh, yeah? Okay.
So they say that 10,000 hours makes you an expert in whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever worked in a corporate job, or you've ever worked in a job where people have been there for 5 years or more, right?
Yeah.
So at a regular 40-hour work week over a 52-week year, it takes you about 5 years to break that 10,000 hour mark, right?
Yeah.
How many people do you know that have been working someplace for 5, 10, 15, or 20 years and still suck at their jobs? A lot.
A lot, yeah. I can think of a few right now.
Right? So it's not just about putting in the time. Practice makes permanent.
Yeah.
It has to be perfect practice. It has to be mindful dedication to getting better at something, or you don't.
And just practice the wrong thing, and then you're like an expert on like legitimately not what you're supposed to be good at.
Yeah, I mean, like I used to know colonels and majors or whatever. It's like, you've been in the Air Force for 25 years. You're terrible.
Yeah.
That doesn't, obviously something doesn't click there with that. You've done a lot more than 10,000 hours. And you're still struggling here.
Yeah, there was a really, that kind of brings me back when I first started working so I was in corporate management a couple of years ago, and my like the big boss had a really interesting thing to say, and he said, like, when you first get your job, you're never gonna like not try hard, or like you're always gonna do your best when you first get in, but then it's like, how often can you be engaged? And like there's kind of like, if you're not engaging yourself all the way, then like you start to like grow like contempt for your job, and then you get lazy, and then like you're just kind of like in this stasis of like not really developing anymore and practicing and like doing like the wrong things without even really caring. So yeah, staying engaged and staying motivated and always be willing to like improve, I think that willingness might dissipate for people who are like uncompassionate about what they're doing for the long term. I don't know, I'm kind of going on a tangent right now, but yeah, it's okay. Brought me back to that one
bring
quote.
Up good points.
Yeah. We kind of talked about this earlier when you said when you wanted to not stretch yourself too thin. You're a man of like many talents and accomplishments, serving in the Air Force, talented musician and actor. You're in great shape from parkour. Like I've seen I think the Twitter videos of you just doing like stunts and whatnot. And even when I was like reading the comments in, I think there was a piano cover that you did. I'm not really super well versed in it, but I read the comments, and it was like, they were like so amazed that you have this like multi-talent and you can like do all these really cool things. Is there anything for self-development right now, like kind of outside the job, that you're trying to work on, or is it more so just kind of focusing on like you said, like why you're here and just honing in on what you're already doing?
You know, I think part of the problem, and I think a lot of people who are very like type A, like I am, and very driven and want to like, you know, conquer the world in their own way, is they find that at some point they look around and the relationships that other people who are not quite as driven have built are much better than their relationships. It was really interesting. I was actually, just to keep this very Fire Emblem related, I was playing, I was hanging out with Allegra Clark and a couple of other of the Fire Emblem cast, and we were playing Jackbox.
Okay.
Right. And we had the most, like, I thought I was gonna throw up. I was laughing so hard. But there's the game Fibbage, right, where like you have to come up with fake answers to questions, and like the more clever your answer, the more believable it is, the more points you get, because people will believe your lie.
Yeah.
Right. I crushed that game. Absolutely crushed it. There's another version of it called Fibbage something, but it has to do like more about the people that you're with.
Okay.
Right? It's more about like, can you make a believable, do you know the people around you? Can you spot lies about the people around you? I got my ass handed to me.
Okay.
Right? So like, I'm very competent when it comes to a lot of things, but one of the things I'm working on in my life right now is forming better relationships, letting people in, being a little more vulnerable. Nice. Being a little bit more empathetic.
Wow.
These are all things that are assisted by having a house full of girls. I have a wife and 2 daughters. So like there's some forced learning there. But you know, that's one thing that I'm definitely working on from a personal standpoint right now. And it's something that I'm not familiar with, and because I've always been about the drive and the goal achieving and the goal setting and just getting shit done, and not always about the people around me along the way.
Wow, that was a really great answer. Thank you. That was awesome.
Well.
Okay, so this is going to be the last question of the day. We're going to talk about your past roles and your upcoming roles, and I want you to determine which house they would belong to. So we have the Black Eagles, Blue Lions, Golden Deer, and Ashen Wolves. So starting with Fox McCloud. Where does he go?
That's a tough split between Blue Lions and Golden Deer.
Really?
I think so. I might put him in Blue Lions.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I might put him in Blue Lions.
Would you put Falco in?
Falco would be Golden Deer.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Falco's Golden Deer all the way.
All right. What about Bumblebee?
Bumblebee. Well, okay, my version of Bumblebee, and I can't tip my hand too much because the
Right.
versions of these characters are not the same versions that you're used to when you think of these characters. It's a very, I think, different take on Transformers in general. I would say, that's tough. Probably Golden Deer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, and I can't really explain it because I don't want to like give out what Bumblebee's motivations are. But I'm thinking about like how he would react in certain situations. Is he more easygoing? Well, yeah. If I wouldn't put him in the Blue Lions, I may put him in the Black Eagles.
Okay.
I may.
So it's a toss-up.
But probably Golden Deer. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. So we have a Blue Lions and a Golden Deer. Now I've never actually played Trails of Cold Steel, but I'm sure people who follow you and have. So what about Kurt Vander?
I'd probably put him Black Eagles. He's very like duty oriented, very embroiled in the Empire. So probably Black Eagles. He's probably
Okay. And now we're gonna be harkening back to some Fire Emblem Hero stuff.
Okay.
Because you voiced Canas and Jomke.
Yeah.
So what about Canas? I can't pronounce. I as a Fire.
I don't
fan,
know. I always say Canis and Jamke. I don't really know what's correct.
Okay.
To be completely honest. So
I think it is Canis actually. People, because I used to say Canas too, and they were like, "What are you saying?"
Yeah. I would say Canis in Blue Lions and Jamke. Probably also in Blue Lions.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to remember like what Jamke's attitude was, but I don't think it was very whimsical. I think it was very like.
Yeah, he was super serious.
He was very serious.
Yeah, he went against his own like kingdom to like do the right thing type deal. As far as I remember, it's been a long time since I played genealogy.
Yeah.
And the last one, Rogers.
Oh, Rogers is a Golden Deer.
You sure? I was thinking maybe like Ashen Wolves.
I don't know the Ashen Wolves yet, so I can't. I haven't played the DLC. I don't know what their shtick is, but I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know anything about it.
Okay. All right. So sweet. Yeah, I was thinking either like, Ashen Wolves or Golden Deer, but yeah, Rogers. Yeah. He would totally check in to be like you said, kind of like Claude, except his plans don't really.
Yeah, except he sucks at scheming.
Yeah. I haven't actually finished reading the first book, but I'm about just under halfway there. But I'm really, I'm really enjoying it.
People say that like it kind of starts to pick up right about there. That was the general feedback. Was like they start really liking it around that point. So
I'm into it. I'm really into it.
Great,
it's really
I'm glad.
Cool. Okay, so that actually wraps up all the questions that I have.
Awesome.
And towards the end of each one of these like interviews, I just like to ask like, is there anyone who you want to kind of shout out, or is there anyone who you'd like to kind of give a nod to type deal before we kind of wrap?
I want to shout out Patrick Seitz and the Cup of Tea team.
Yes.
I think their organization, Patrick's direction was some of the best I've gotten since being a voice actor.
Yeah.
The way he can break down concepts in game into something that makes it very easy to understand. And it was like every time if I didn't understand the context of something, he would make a very quick and accurate analog, and I would understand it right away, and I got exactly what he wanted. And you can tell how seamless all that dialogue is throughout the game. His direction was chef's kiss.
It was like
so.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good. The Cup of Tea team, they're some of my favorite people. They're amazing, and that studio is just like, it feels like a home for actors. It's like a foster home for actors who are all wayward. It's just great. They treat everybody so amazing. And of course, I think the big heroes of the whole Fire Emblem Three Houses and its success is Nintendo's localization writers. I think those folks, like, I've been on a lot of projects and I've played a lot of games, and you can tell like we're only as good as the material you give us, right? I can only polish a turd so hard. I can only make a piece of poop so shiny.
Yeah.
If you give me a crappy script, I can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Except make it, occasionally offer suggestions. But the Nintendo localization team, they put a ton of time and effort into translating not just the words but the characters and how they would you can't I use an analogy now. I forgot it. If we start a sentence right in America with so like, there's an implication of hesitance, right?
Yeah.
Or like whatever I'm about to say, does it like, so like, are we zombies now? Right? Whatever it is, there's an implication in that. So like, you can't translate that to another language. You can't put like so and like into any other language.
Yeah.
You have to take that and mold it and then put it in the mouth of another character. And the localization team for Nintendo for Fire Emblem Three Houses did that in spades. And they really put a lot of time into it, and it absolutely shows. The game is spectacularly written and translated.
Yeah. It actually, you mentioned seamless, and when I first found out that it, like, the booth was like, when Pat had everyone in, they like recorded all by themselves, and
almost all video games do that.
Yeah, and but with Three Houses, it's like it felt like they were actually just like having a conversation. It was unreal.
Great.
Yeah, it was unreal. It was nuts. Such a good job.
It was great.
It was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe, thank you so much for putting your time out and spending these like 40 minutes with me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thanks
to have
for
you
having
on,
me. It was
sure,
fun.
man. Yeah. All right, guys. Joe's YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram are going to be linked down below. It's just his name, so it's really easy to find. And
I'm the only one around.
He's the only one around. When you were a kid in school, were you just like called last for like every roll call ever?
Every single one, except no, I take that back. There was a very unfortunate person whose last name was Zwicky, spelled Z-Y-W, and you can't get much worse than that.
He was.
So I was usually second to last.
Destined to be last.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you guys want to leave a like and comment down below, that'd be great. You can also subscribe for more Fire Emblem, specifically Three Houses content, like interviews, let's plays, and scripted content like that. And like I said, Joe's stuff is going to be linked down below. And with that being said, guys, hope you're enjoying your March, and I'll see you in the next one.